August 18th, 1590, Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. A small English ship anchors just offshore and a group of men cautiously makes their way to land. Among them is John White, the appointed governor of the Roanoke Colony. For 3 long years, White has been separated from his family, his daughter Eleanor and his granddaughter Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. But as White approaches the settlement, his excitement turns to dread. The village is gone. The houses, palisades and shelters he helped build have vanished without a trace. There are no signs of struggle, no bodies, no clues, nothing. All that remains are 2 cryptic carvings, the word Croatoan etched into a wooden post and the letter CRO carved into a tree nearby. White had expected to return to a thriving community. Instead, he found nothing but silence. What happened to the 115 men, women and children of Roanoke Colony? Were they attacked? Did they starve, flee, or meet some other unimaginable fate? For over 400 years, the disappearance of the Roanoke Colony has baffled historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. New discoveries have shed light on their fate, but the truth is as elusive as ever. Let's unravel one of history's most haunting mysteries, the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. The story of the Roanoke Colony begins in the late 16th century, during a time of ambition, exploration, and rivalry. England, under the rule of Queen Elizabeth I, was determined to establish a foothold in the New World and challenge Spain's dominance in the Americas. The plan was bold: create a permanent English settlement that could serve as a base for trade, exploration, and military operations. In 1584, Sir Walter Raleigh, an adventurer and favourite of the Queen, was granted a charter to explore and colonize the lands north of Spanish Florida. His expeditions led him to Roanoke Island, an isolated but strategically located area off the coast of present-day North Carolina. Raleigh's scouts reported fertile land, abundant resources, and friendly relations with the local Algonquian tribes. Encouraged by their findings, Raleigh launched the first settlement in 1585. But this initial colony, consisting mostly of soldiers and adventurers, was ill-prepared for the realities of life in the New World. The settlers struggled with limited supplies, harsh weather, and rising tensions with the indigenous Socotan tribe. By 1586, after barely a year, the colony was abandoned and the settlers returned to England. Despite this setback, Raleigh remained determined. In 1587, a second attempt was made, this time with families. The new group of 115 settlers, including women and children, was led by John White, a skilled artist and cartographer. This was a critical shift in strategy. By sending families, Raleigh aimed to establish a stable, self-sustaining community rather than a temporary military outpost. The settlers arrived on Roanoke Island in July 1587, and their early days were filled with optimism. White documented their efforts to build homes and develop relationships with the local Croatoan tribe who lived on a nearby island. His watercolor paintings of the region remain some of the earliest visual records of the New World. But challenges soon arose. The settlers faced dwindling supplies, poor harvests, and a lack of support from England. White, seeing the colony's precarious state, decided to sail back to England for reinforcements and provisions, leaving behind his daughter, granddaughter, and the rest of the settlers. He promised to return quickly, but fate had other plans. Back in England, White was delayed by the outbreak of war with Spain. The Spanish Armada, a massive fleet sent to invade England, required every available ship to defend the nation. White's return to Roanoke was postponed for 3 years. When he finally made it back in 1590, the settlement and its people were gone. The carvings of Croatoan and CRO hinted at a connection to the nearby Croatoan island, but bad weather and limited resources forced White to abandon his search. He returned to England, never knowing what had happened to his family and the colony he had led. What happened to the Roanoke settlers during those 3 years? To answer this, we must examine the theories that have emerged over centuries, some grounded in evidence, others fueled by speculation. For centuries, historians and researchers have grappled with the mystery of Roanoke's disappearance. Theories range from plausible explanations to more fantastical ideas, each trying to make sense of how an entire colony vanished without a trace. Theory 1. Assimilation with the Croatoan tribe. The most widely accepted theory is that the settlers moved to Croatoan Island, modern-day Hatteras Island, and assimilated with the friendly Croatoan tribe. This would explain the carving of Croatoan found by John White, as well as the lack of evidence of a violent attack. Reports from later English explorers lend credibility to this theory. Some claim to have encountered native tribes with European features, speaking broken English and possessing European artifacts. This suggests that at least some of the settlers may have survived by integrating into indigenous communities. Theory 2, migration inland. Another theory posits that the settlers moved inland in search of better resources. Evidence from Site X, an archaeological location near the Chowan River, suggests the presence of a small group of settlers. Artifacts such as pottery fragments and tools, consistent with the time period of Roanoke, have been discovered there. This theory aligns with reports that the settlers were instructed to leave a sign or carving if they decided to relocate. However, the lack of any definitive written record or a large-scale settlement leaves this explanation incomplete. Theory 3. Conflict with indigenous tribes. A darker possibility is that the settlers were attacked and killed by hostile tribes. Tensions with the Sokotan and other neighboring tribes had been high since the first Roanoke expedition, and conflict may have escalated in the absence of supplies and reinforcements from England. Yet the lack of bodies or evidence of a struggle at the settlement complicates this theory. If an attack occurred, it's unclear why no physical traces were left behind. Theory 4. To starvation and disease. The settlers faced harsh conditions, poor soil for farming, drought and limited supplies. It's possible they succumbed to starvation, disease or exposure. In desperation, they may have scattered in small groups, each facing its own grim fate. This theory accounts for the lack of a unified trace of the colony, but doesn't explain the carvings or reports of European artifacts found with native tribes. Theories beyond the mainstream. Of course, more speculative ideas have also emerged. Some suggest supernatural explanations, such as a curse or alien abduction. While these theories are entertaining, they lack any evidence and remain in the realm of fiction. The truth likely lies somewhere in the intersection of these theories. To uncover more, we must turn to the evidence unearthed by modern archaeology. In recent decades, advances in technology and dedicated research have provided new clues about the fate of the Roanoke settlers. Archaeological digs on Hatteras Island, the home of the Croatoan tribe, have uncovered several European artifacts. These include a 16th-century gunlock, pottery and tools, all consistent with items the settlers would have brought with them. This strongly supports the theory that some settlers relocated to Croatoan Island and integrated with the tribe. However, these artifacts don't explain what happened to the entire colony. Were only a portion of the settlers able to make it to Croatoan? Did others go elsewhere? Perhaps the most compelling discovery is Site X, located near the Chowan River in Bertie County, North Carolina. Researchers at this inland location have found fragments of pottery and tools that match the time period of the Roanoke Colony. What's intriguing about Site X is its distance from Roanoke Island, nearly 50 miles inland. This suggests that some settlers may have split off from the group, traveling deeper into the wilderness in search of better opportunities. The presence of European artifacts at multiple sites hints at a fragmented migration, with small groups seeking survival in different directions. One of the most surprising pieces of evidence comes from John White's map, known as the Virginia Pars map, which he created during his earlier expedition. Modern imaging technology revealed hidden symbols on the map, including a fort-like marking near Site X. This suggests that the settlers may have planned or attempted to establish a second colony inland, a possibility that was unknown for centuries. In addition to archaeological evidence, efforts are underway to use DNA testing to determine whether native tribes in the region have genetic links to the Roanoke settlers. While this research is still in its early stages, it holds the potential to provide definitive proof of assimilation. These discoveries paint a picture of resilience. The settlers didn't vanish, they adapted, split into smaller groups and sought survival in the face of overwhelming challenges. But while the evidence answers some questions, it leaves others unanswered. What caused the settlers to abandon Roanoke so completely? And why were they unable to leave clearer records of their fate? In the next section, we'll explore the most likely scenarios and the legacy of the Roanoke mystery. As we piece together the clues, a plausible story begins to emerge. A story of survival, adaptation, and sacrifice. When John White left for England in 1587, the settlers of Roanoke faced an uncertain future. Supplies were limited, and the local environment offered little in the way of resources. Drought conditions, as revealed by tree ring data, made farming nearly impossible. With no reinforcements arriving and their survival at stake, it's likely the settlers made the difficult decision to abandon Roanoke Island. The carving of Croatoan suggests that some, if not all of the settlers, initially sought refuge with the friendly Croatoan tribe on nearby Hatteras Island. This would have been a logical move. The Croatoan people had shown a willingness to trade and share resources, and their island offered more sustainable living conditions. Artifacts found on Hatteras Island, such as tools and pottery of European origins, support this theory. These items indicate that at least some settlers lived among the Croatoan, potentially intermarrying and assimilating into their culture. Oral histories from the tribe mention interactions with Europeans, lending further credence to this idea, but not all settlers may have stayed on Croatoan Island. The evidence from Site X suggests that a group of settlers moved inland, possibly seeking better farming opportunities or greater security. The presence of European artifacts and the hidden fort symbol on John White's map hint at an organized effort to establish a new settlement near the Chowan River. This inland migration would have been fraught with challenges. The settlers would have had to navigate dense forests, unfamiliar terrain, and potential hostility from neighboring tribes. It's possible that this group became isolated, eventually succumbing to disease, starvation, or conflict. The most likely scenario is that the Roanoke settlers fragmented into smaller groups. Some may have stayed with the Croatoan while others ventured inland. This fragmentation would explain why no single site has been found containing all the settlers' belongings or remains. Each group faced its own unique fate, and over time their European identity faded as they integrated into native communities or perished in the wilderness. While this theory explains much, it still leaves questions unanswered. Why didn't the settlers leave a clearer record of their plans? Was the decision to split up part of a coordinated effort, or was it driven by desperation? And why did John White's search end without further exploration? To fully understand the mystery, we must consider the legacy of Roanoke and the lessons it offers about resilience, adaptation, and the human drive to survive. The story of the Roanoke Colony is not just a historical mystery. It's a testament to the resilience and adaptability of humanity in the face of extraordinary challenges. While we may never know every detail of what happened, the evidence we've uncovered offers us a glimpse into the lives of these early settlers and the decisions they made to survive. Despite centuries of research and recent discoveries, the fate of Roanoke settlers remains partially shrouded in uncertainty. The artifacts on Hatteras Island and at Site X suggest that some settlers sought refuge with the Croatoan tribe or moved inland, but neither theory accounts for the entire colony. The carvings, Croatoan and Car-Io, remain haunting clues pointing to a path the settlers may have taken but offering no definitive answers. And while the artifacts and oral histories provide hints, they are fragments of a much larger, incomplete picture. One possibility is that Roanoke's fate was not a single event but a series of choices made by desperate people. Some settlers may have stayed with the Croatoan, others scattered inland, and still others may have perished along the way. This fragmentation could explain why no single site or theory tells the full story. What makes Roanoke's mystery so compelling isn't just the question of what happened, it's the human story behind it. These settlers were pioneers, families who left everything they knew behind to seek a new life in an unknown land. Their disappearance speaks to the fragility of early colonial ventures and the immense challenges faced by those who dared to cross the Atlantic. The story of Roanoke also highlights the interconnectedness of cultures. If the settlers did integrate with the Croatoan or other native tribes, their survival would have depended on the knowledge, resources, and generosity of indigenous people. This possibility challenges the narrative of European dominance in the New World, reminding us of the vital role native communities played in the survival of early colonists. The mystery of Roanoke invites us to reflect on resilience, adaptation, and the enduring human desire to solve the unknown. As researchers continue to uncover new evidence, the story of Roanoke reminds us that history is not static, it's a puzzle waiting to be pieced together. Modern technology, from advanced imaging techniques to DNA analysis, holds the promise of uncovering more about the lost colony. But even if the full story remains elusive, Roanoke continues to captivate us, inspiring exploration, curiosity, and wonder. The Roanoke colony may be lost, but its legacy endures as one of history's most haunting mysteries. What do you think happened to the settlers? Were they assimilated into local tribes, or did they meet a more tragic fate? If you found this deep dive into Roanoke's story intriguing, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more untold stories, and share your theories in the comments. Together we can keep the spirit of discovery alive, and who knows, the next clue might be waiting for someone like you to uncover.